this is my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, so this episode actually opens up with a guy, for lack of a better word, he pulls his eye out with a pencil. He pulls it out of the pencil, like clean out. And then, but interestingly enough, he's surprised he pulled his eye out with a pencil, which is immediately odd, but it is explained later in the episode why this is odd. So, sure enough, this incident eventually makes its way back to Tamami, who informs Josuke and Koichi about it, and sure enough, points out that it may be the cause of a guy named Toshikami Hazamada, a student at their school who may in fact be a stand user, because this incident occurred shortly after the guy had an argument with Hazamada at school. And sure enough, Josuke is a little bit skeptical, but Tamami points out that they really shouldn't doubt him as much as he should. He's pointing out that he even got himself a job, and that he should be respected a little more. At which point he reveals the details of the job and reveals that he just basically became a loan shark. So he went from being the guy who extorted money from people to the guy who gave money to people, then extorts them. So, I mean, at the very least, he's making a living off of it. I mean, his character hasn't progressed all that much, but he does respect Koichi a little bit more now, which is kind of a character progression. But in any case, Josuke thanks him for the information and goes inside, and Tamami tells Koichi that he should probably let Josuke handle it, but Koichi points out that he can't since there are dangerous stand users attacking people, he wants to make sure that he's able to keep his family safe. And Tamami, admiring Koichi's words and realizing that that's probably the reason why he stuck around with him, realizes that Koichi is probably in good hands and leaves. Sure enough, Josuke and Koichi then begin investigating for Hazamada and trying to find out who he is and where he is. And they begin with his homeroom, but they can't actually find anything of note since they can't actually find him. So they instead decide to go and raid his locker, and they can't find anything except this for whatever reason, this really big drawing doll, and they're not entirely sure what it is. And sure enough, Josuke interacts with it and initially mistakes it for a stand, but realizes it's most likely not a stand. Except his assumption winds up being correct. As it turns out, it's actually Hazamada's stand named Surface. And sure enough, Surface has a unique ability. Because it's a drawing doll, and because it's able to actually mimic another person's appearance and control them, and it uses this to basically make itself appear like Josuke, and through the doll, Hazamada gloats that it's going to use Josuke's appearance to get close to Jotaro and basically take him out of commission and scare him out of town. Since, as he points out, they're not going to be able to they're not going to be able to face him directly, so they might as well use some subterfuge. So they're trying to get rid of him, and it's also implied that he's trying to fulfill Red Hot Chili Peppers' request, which was that he's trying to run Jotaro out of town too, and sure enough, it's entirely possible Hazamada may have been influenced by him in some way. We never actually get to see the details, but it's implied. But sure enough, he then throws a pen to Josuke, and then uses his stand to not only knock Koichi out by using Josuke's own arm, since the way that Surface works is that not only can it mimic someone's appearance, but it can also control them to an extent, provided they make eye contact with the stand. But then he also uses his abilities to stab Josuke in the eye, although it's later revealed to be a trick, since it's revealed that Koichi was saved at the last minute using Crazy Diamond's ability, and then Koichi in turn used his stand to make it sound like he was actually getting stabbed. So, when in actuality, neither of those things actually happened. Koichi still hit the door and was still injured afterward, but he wasn't as injured as he would have been had Josuke not used his stand to save him. And sure enough, And sure enough, during this brief exchange, Josuke can't actually do any sort of damage to Surface, since Surface knows full what is able to just stay out of range, and sure enough, Crazy Diamond is actually able to hurt him. So they realize pretty quickly that they're not going to be able to get within range, and resolve instead to actually warn Jotaro about what's going to happen, and warn him about the attempted attack that's going to happen. Only to discover that Surface and Hazamada had actually gotten to Jotaro first, and had actually called him, and realizing they were now on borrowed time, it resolved to go through town and try to find him. Sure enough, Hazamada and the fake Josuke, and using Surface, Hazamada and Surface actually arrange a meeting with Jotaro to get him into a vulnerable state so that they can basically kill him at the very least. So, at the very least, yeah, because if they can't, they can at the very least try and run him out of town and try to scare him. So because they're trying to get rid of him. They're trying to get rid of him because he's investigating around for stand users. So they quickly realize that if they don't take care of him soon, he'll eventually defeat all the stand users in their little group, as they put it. But in case Josuke and Koichi begin running through town trying to find it. Meanwhile, Surface and Hazamada are slowly making their way through town, and also when they run into Tamami, who knows full well what's going on, they knock him out for good measure to keep him quiet. And sure enough, continue on their way to the meeting. But on the way there, a lot of Josuke's other students mistake Surface for Josuke and begin saying goodbye to him, and one even gives him a confession note, which Hazamada immediately rips up. And also, it's revealed that Hazamada has a bit of a problem regarding his stand. The way his stand ability works is that it copies his victim down to their fingerprints, as Josuke puts it. But the problem with that is that they often get mistaken for the person they're impersonating. So basically Surface is getting a bunch of praise, which causes Hazamada's jealousy to just flare up. And sure enough, he gets extremely jealous at his stand because of that reason. Even though it's not actually Josuke, it looks enough like him and acts enough like him that it causes Hazamada's jealousy to just flare up. But in any case, after having a bit of an argument with his stand because of that reason, he continues on his way toward the meeting place, accidentally rubbing some dirt on a biker's bike, and the bikers notice and begin to confront Hazamada, pointing out his shrimpy appearance and how they could most easily take him. But then they're immediately attacked by Surface shortly after. So, and sure enough, Surface holds the latter of the two that he knocks out hostage, and Hazamada proceeds to threaten to cut up his tongue with a box knife. But fortunately, before he can do that, Josuke and Koichi finally track him down, and using a piece of glass actually restores a bottle around Surface's hand, which Surface immediately catches and breaks Surface's hand off because it caught the piece of glass, and then it starts to restore around his hand, breaking his hand off, which breaks the illusion because the way Surface's hand works is that it can only mimic its appearance if it's whole. And sure enough, once Josuke breaks its hand off, it returns to wood. So it has to. And sure enough, Josuke and Koichi are able to use that to their advantage later. Sure enough, they run on their way. But in actuality, they're just waiting for Hazamada to reveal the details of his plan, which is that they're going to meet him at a train station, and quickly realize that they have a means of actually dealing with him. And sure enough, when Hazamada arrives with Surface at the train station, they hear a train coming and then immediately go to the docking platform, realizing that Josuke is most likely going to have to cut through the train and wait for it until it goes by. But this is revealed to be a trick by echoes who mimic the sound of a train going by. So Hazamada is a little bit upset about that, but unfortunately he isn't able to get to Jotaro first, and Josuke is able to accurately warn him before anything happens. So sure enough, the crisis is averted until Josuke snatches the pen out of Jotaro's pocket and realizing too late he's being controlled by Surface, is now going to be made to murder Jotaro in Surface's stead. But before that could happen, the two bikers who apparently were tipped off by Josuke about what was going on and about where he would be, sure enough tackles Hazamada to the ground, and before he can do anything in disabling his stand. And sure enough, he's dragged elsewhere to be beaten up by the bikers while Josuke destroys his now powerless stand. And sure enough, Hazamada is escorted to the hospital with Red Hot Chili Pepper emerging from a street lamp to remark how it was foolish and better luck next time, basically, and before receding back into the lamp. So, as I said, it's heavily implied that Hazamada was working with whoever Red Hot Chili Pepper stand user is to actually, take out Jotaro, since he can easily use his abilities to sneak up on Jotaro and take him out. That didn't wind up working, but he came very close to actually killing Jotaro. If the bikers hadn't intervened, Jotaro would have died. So, yeah, it's very clear that it's very clear that Surface can be a dangerous stand if used properly. Unfortunately, Hazamada is a little bit temperamental, so that doesn't wind up working out. But it's heavily implied that it could be dangerous if he uses it properly, which he doesn't, because he can impersonate basically anybody. So if that winds up being in Hazamada's favor, he could easily take somebody out with it. Unfortunately, he tried to take out one of the Joestars, who happened to be pretty resourceful in taking out enemies. So that didn't really pan out. But more importantly, this episode reveals that that stand users can in fact be anywhere in Morio. They're not just limited to just random passerbys on the street. They can in fact be friends or even neighbors or even classmates that are just hiding in plain sight and waiting to strike. So, yeah, now Josuke and Koichi have learned this and are now going to be much more on their toes. And also, off-screen, Tamami is escorted to the hospital. Nobody even realized that he was injured. So, yeah. Josuke and Koichi even passed by him during the whole sequence of them trying to find Surface before he causes problems. They pass by him, but they never actually see him, but he is escorted to the hospital anyway, so he's fine. He just got knocked out. He took a prick to the skull, but he's fine. This is an interesting episode because it just introduces the idea that stand users could be anyone. I mean, we've already established that, but this firmly establishes for the new audiences that are just watching this part, and not the other three, that stands and stand users can actually be anywhere at any time. So you need to keep your guard up. But yeah, that's my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter in the description below. And also, check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!